Lee, we got a review of Rush Hour 2. We ain't done yet. Tom Richardson's gonna review the second movie. Come on, man, we ain't done. So hey guys, sorry I had to listen to that for a second time for those who saw my Rush Hour 1 review. But now's the time to review Rush Hour 2, also directed by Brett Ratner. This is the second film, obviously, in the franchise, but given the big number 2 on the title. In the second film, guys, Lee and Carter are on a vacation in Hong Kong. And for those who saw the first film, you'll know why they're in Hong Kong based off of how the first film ended. Um, so they're on vacation. They're just trying to enjoy a good time. But Carter is not having a good time since Lee's still kind of being a police officer since, he's accepted back to his country again of doing what he was doing best earlier. Carter really feels like the vacation never really started just because Lee is still kind of working and doing these big cases, and the two of them really aren't having a vacation, even though on paper they are having a vacation. But while they're over there, there's a huge money scam going on. All these fictional money bills are going around. People really think that they're real things, and they're not. There is a undercover person that they meet along the way, which I won't spoil just for those who haven't seen the film yet, because it is a very fun character that they run into, who's played by Rosalind Sanchez, very attractive lady, by the way. Um, they run into her, they figure out what's going on, how she's involved with it, how it's kind of not sure if she's good or bad, if she's really helping them or is against them. And so all while they're over there too, these skilled martial artists that they keep running into, and there's all these different things. There's a character from Lee's past that kind of comes back to haunt him throughout this movie, and all this happens during this big money scam that Lee and Carter get involved with while they're on vacation in Hong Kong. So overall, guys, Rush Hour 2 is a fun film. It's not quite the great film that Brett Ratner gave us in the first Rush Hour, but it's a fun film. And I think that's ultimately what's saving Rush Hour 2 in the long run, is people were all reminded of how fun it was and how funny it was. And that's kind of how Rush Hour 2, I think, has stood the test of time, as people remember that. For positives and negatives of Rush Hour 2, Chris Tucker is definitely the fish out of water here, since the first one was mostly in the U.S. Now it's mostly in Hong Kong. He's definitely fish out of water. He's trying to learn Chinese, and he's trying to really get in bed with these hot, attractive women, and it's just not working because his Chinese really isn't that well, and so Lee makes fun of him throughout the movie. All these other Chinese people make fun of him throughout the movie. It really does work just because, last film it was the opposite way. Remember, Lee was the fish out of water. Now Carter is the fish out of water. And, he's trying to get used to the Chinese culture, and obviously there's things that he likes and things that he really doesn't like. And so all that plays out really well. So Chris Tucker definitely stole the show again, especially now that he's the fish out of water character in the sequel. I also thought Rush Hour 2 had a good sense of pacing. I even would go so far as to say that this film I thought had better pacing than the first Rush Hour. I thought it was, more quick, more, made its points quicker. It just was, more fun. It definitely, the journey felt a little bit faster as a result, in a good way. Um, just a better sense of pacing, I thought, in the second film. There's also some great stunt work here. Possibly some of the stunt work is a little bit better than the first one as well. Just really, life-threatening stunts that Jackie Chan has to do throughout the movie. Just a lot of fun to watch. Chris Tucker gets some stunts himself this time. Obviously not as extensive as what Jackie Chan had to do, but he's given stunt work nonetheless. So Brett Ratner definitely let both of these men get involved in the stunts this time, and it's very fun to watch. There's also some fun and comedic situations throughout the course of the film. One that's a lot of fun and kind of sexy in a way too is when Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker are watching Rosalind Sanchez. That they're trying to figure out who she really is and all this kind of stuff through a window in a hotel. And it's just really fun to watch. Just to see these two men are really attracted to her, and us as an audience, I would like to think, are attracted to this woman too. And it's just a really fun and comedic situation, and how it plays out is really funny. And just the things that Chris Tucker says to her, right when he's in the presence of her, which just has bra and underwear on, and it's just really funny. Brett Ratner, I bet, had a blast on the set when this scene was filmed. There's also a very funny blooper reel at the end during the end credits of this movie. I would say out of all three films, since yes, I have seen Rush Hour 3 by the time I filmed this, um, this film I thought had the best end credit blooper reel. Just really funny. There's something involving Chris Tucker not being able to pronounce gefilte fish on the set, and it's just a lot of fun. So make sure that you don't leave right away or don't turn the movie off when the movie's done with, because there is end credits and there's a very funny blooper reel that plays during that end credits. And please stick around for it. It's very funny. For my negatives of Rush Hour 2, I thought there was some flat villainous characters overall. Though I picked on the first film for not having great side characters, unfortunately, Rush Hour 2 goes even further and has flat villainous characters this time. There is a character that's kind of explained why he's there, why he's connected to Lee's past, but it's a very flat character. You just kind of forget about him by the time the film's over with. So, villainous characters wise, the film's a little bit flat. I also thought this film didn't really have an interesting plot. It just felt kind of typical. It felt like, oh, well, it could be about this, it could be about this, it's kind of about this, it's also a little bit about this. And the film never really could make up its mind, and as a result, it's just not very interesting and it's kind of boring. I also thought this film borrowed too much from the first film. Just the way it was structured, the way it was told, how the jokes landed, everything seems a little bit familiar, and as a result, we kind of feel like we're watching the same film all over again. And it's too bad that Brett Ratner really couldn't have done a completely different direction for Rush Hour 2. I also thought this film doesn't spend enough time in Hong Kong. There's a good portion of the film that goes back to the US, and as a result, you kind of wish that more of it was in Hong Kong just because it was more interesting. And the Chris Tucker fish out of water thing was so fun. That immediately gets lost by the time they go back to the US. So overall, I'm going to give Rush Hour 2 an 8 out of 10. It's a good film. It's a good sequel, but unfortunately, it didn't quite live up to its predecessor with the original Rush Hour. But it's still a good time. If you like the first Rush Hour, you'll probably have fun with Rush Hour 2.